My name is Carlos Hernandez. I'm the author of Sal and Gabi Break the Universe and the upcoming Sal and Gabi Fix the Universe. And I most definitely do not listen to the Half-Blood Report.
Welcome to the Half-Blood Report.
Here we discuss Percy Jackson news, interviews, and all things Riordan. I'm Samuel, your co-host.
And I'm Diego, your other co-host.
I do want to say that was probably the most interesting voice I've ever heard from Diego on the podcast, and that is actually saying a lot. So
yeah, I got big Orson Welles energy off of that. That was awesome.
So, listeners, you just heard the voice of our fabulous guest on this episode. He's been on the podcast twice before, and now on the third time on the podcast, we have Carlos Hernandez. Thank you so much for joining us, Carlos.
Oh, it's always my pleasure to be here.
Oh my god! Oh my god! Oh my god! Oh my god! Carlos, you don't know what happened, but Samuel put in parentheses like where it like it's like where you were like gonna say something.
Let me back up. Listeners and Carlos and anyone who might not have guessed this, Diego and I do have sort of general outline scripts for what we're going to talk about, and those do sort of include our general introduction. So I said, like, Samuel will introduce Carlos on the show. Carlos will say something along the lines of "always a pleasure," and then.
Oh, Samuel, have me programmed.
Oh yeah, we're getting right into the Sal and Gabi. That's. Are you sure you're not a class 8 AI? Okay.
Exactly. Yeah. If I was a cat, I'd be class 10, and none of this would even be an issue.
Nah, I'm pretty sure Samuel predicted it from an alternate universe.
Yeah, well, Sammy's a smart guy, and also it is a pleasure to be here always. And so, every time I come back, things get better and better. And so, I love how this podcast has grown. I love how many different interviews you've done, and you two are just great. So it really is a pleasure to be back.
Thanks.
Thank you so much. That's a really nice compliment.
All right. And if you haven't guessed, Carlos is here to talk about his newest book under the Rick Riordan Presents imprint, Sal and Gabi Fix the Universe.
Love it. Oh my God, I need that as my ringtone.
Alrighty. So let's get right to it with a big boy hard-hitting question. How has the coronavirus affected your original book tour, and have you had to adapt to that?
Yeah, so it basically canceled it. It canceled everything in our society right now. Disney had planned much longer than a week. It was a 10-day tour where I'd be in New York and California and spots in between. In 10 days, I was going to be in 9 states or something like that. It was ridiculously ambitious, and I was so looking forward to it, and it all went away. I was going to be able to share a stage with Rick Riordan at the Wilbur, in Boston. And, that was going to be a big event. And well, it all just went away for now. And so Disney recovered like champions though, and so on the day of the book launch, I was on 6 hours of radio show. So I had back to back interviews, that went anywhere from 10 minutes to 30 minutes. And so I was doing podcasts and live shows, and I got to discover that AM radio still exists. I haven't listened to AM radio in a while, but it's out there, and apparently it's thriving. Big audiences out there. So yeah, I got interviewed all over the place on the radio for that day. And then I shaved all my hair off on Instagram because, that's
we saw that one.
When you challenge Rick Riordan to a trivia contest and he's asking you the hardest questions he could possibly think of for Greek mythology.
Yeah.
And you're asking him questions about a book he's already read.
in my book, which of course makes sense for promotion, but it was a little bit of a lopsided contest, kind of like my hair looked right after the contest. There's a great picture on Instagram where I look like, somebody had used a shotgun to give me a haircut to 3/4 of my hair, so it's pretty great.
Yeah. We all
You- you-
love Uncle Rick on this podcast, and I think everywhere. But I think Rick should have given you a couple freebies there.
Yeah, he's such a nice guy, but I think he plays to win. So, I say contest, his eyes go red. So that was my own fault. My fault.
And you made these YouTube videos where you were challenging him and killing his minions off, and
Yeah, that was so much fun. I got to do it with my brother-in-law who's here and stuff, and we channeled our cheesy kung fu movie energy, and we actually did lip sync all of the things, even though we had said it's fine, just because we thought it would be funny. And so it was really fun to make. And I have never done a Street Fighter uppercut on myself before, so now I can say I can take that off the bucket list.
Well, I don't think there's anyone who saw that video and didn't think it was hilarious. Going back to your radio tour, like how did that work out? Was it just Disney was like, here, this is what you have to do all day, or how surprised were you when all of a sudden it was like radio tour?
Oh yeah, it wasn't sudden. We were in long discussions about like how to compensate for the fact that the tour was going to be eliminated, and we wanted it not to be. We waited as long as we could, but then it was very clear that safety had to be first, and so we came up with a plan. And Christine Saunders at Disney just like worked like a champ to arrange all of these things. And it's an extremely complicated process where you're trying to basically tune in. Some of the shows were live and some of them were taped. So I had to like do this very careful dance if I only had sometimes only like a minute or two, and then the producer on the other line would be like, okay, we're ready for the next one, and I just had to be ready to go. I would say that on their end, Disney did a superb job of just like making an extremely complicated dance possible, of me being able to do, gosh, I think it was like 14 interviews in 6 hours, and so, yeah, it was a tall order, and there were a few breaks built into them, but it was complicated. And it really just takes really somebody like Christine, who's a super organizer, to be able to do that. I don't know that I could have done that on my own. And it was fun too. The thing, it was really fun to be able to get people, because like what happens is that these radio people, they have extremely busy lives or whatever, but like they had read the book, like people knew like the book and the questions and things like that, and were really into it, and they were joyful about it. So Disney must have done a good job, stuff that I'd never heard about, getting them interested in the book too, so that by the time they were talking on the radio, they were like really encouraging and really trying to sell it, which of course I'm grateful for, but also just like grateful for the fact that they even took the time to read it and stuff. So it was great. It was really, really fun.
It does sound like the best substitute for a physical tour.
Yeah.
But first up, a huge thank you and shout out to Christine. She's the reason that we had that giveaway on our Twitter, and also partially the reason we're talking to you right now.
Yeah. Now, Christine's been great with us.
Yeah. But you just talked about how so many people have been, really talking like they've read the book. So, I don't want to, act like we haven't. So to ask you a question that, to really dive into the nitty gritty of the book, sort of a spoiler. So when Sal was in the space station, he couldn't hear Gabi talking to Mr. Milagros because his ear wasn't going through the portal. But when only his, for no better word to use, when only his butt was in the Chicken Factory universe, he was able to hear a lot of funny Spanish dialogue. So is that a plot hole, or am I missing something? Like, how does his butt hear stuff when his ear, not being in a universe, can't?
I mean, your butt doesn't hear stuff? have you had your butt hearing checked, Samuel?
I should probably call my doctor about that.
the the thing that I was thinking with that is that basically the body becomes a conduit, and so it might have been a little subtle in the way that I did it, but I don't know if you know this, but your brain is actually excellent at augmenting sound, specifically your skull. You know that our bones are excellent transmitters of sound, and so the basic thought was if you've got a piece of you in the other universe, then you can do it. Now, he put his ear there because that's probably like the most natural thing that somebody would think of when they're actually trying to hear. But your body is actually really good at conducting sound. And so what I was thinking is like, as long as you've got a little piece of you in that other universe, then you can interact with that universe in some ways. I mean, if you think about the first book, when they were even just like little ghostly, almost apparitions at the end of the book in that alternate universe, they didn't have any part of their body wholly in there, and they could also hear as well. And so it's kind of the same logic where if there's any little piece of you in that universe, you get to have some participation in that universe from a sensory perspective.
Well, there you have it, listeners, from his great short story collection to his some character traits like diabetes to the slightest detail. You have really researched pretty much everything there is about your book to be researched.
I mean, I'm pretty sure there's got to be some plot holes in there because if you get enough people looking at something, you're gonna find some errors. But like, I did have an idea about that particular one. Like the logic is like you get to participate in any universe that you're in contact with, even if it's more than one at the same time.
Well, I tried to catch you on the only thing I could possibly notice plot hole wise, so I think you're probably good on that part.
Yeah. But there you got it. If you guys have at least one part of yourself in an alternate universe, you can snoop in on some interesting inter-universe dialogue.
Exactly. Or, hear when people are coming to kill you,
And they just might think your floating butt is a demon that needs to be slapped back into the other dimension.
You all are just hitting all my favorite parts. I have a very good life because, among other things, I get to write a story where I have somebody screaming, demon butt on the wall, go smack it. It's ridiculous. I have a ridiculous life.
So this is actually a question kind of related to that. So Sal Gabi 2 has some deeper moments, some might say, than the first book. Happy's smoking, Yasmani's abuelos, Sal accidentally hurting Aventura's feelings. Did you feel that you kind of had to counter that with upping all the potty humor?
So, it was just more, right? And so I feel like it's interesting because, like, in a way, there isn't more potty humor. It's just that there's a potty being humorous. It's like just because it's a toilet doesn't mean it's toilet humor. So like a lot of the jokes, like Vorahina is like the cleanest character in there. She's the one censoring other people, and she's trying to keep things clean. So I think that's pretty funny. But on the other hand, it is a sequel, and people sort of like have a certain kind of expectation. So definitely, I wanted the funny to be funny and the heartfelt to be heartfelt. And yeah, I think if you're reading more extremes into it, it's partially because, well, now we've figured out who these people are on a basic level from the first book. What else can we know about them? And what else can we do to sort of like push the limits of things a little bit?
So when you were in book tour, were kids asking you like, please include the scene where Sal has to go to the bathroom?
No, I know what my readers want before they do.
Answered perfectly.
Kind of like along those same lines, asking about the Sal and Gabi. Your new Sal and Gabi book, Sal and Gabi Fix the Universe, has a couple interesting Easter eggs. The Arusha reference, a T-shirt with your name on it, and can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Oh, I mean, it's just like if you don't have fun as a writer, you're not doing it right. And so giving myself a quota on Gabby's t-shirt was me just being a little stinker myself. It's like, haha, I'm awesome. And I mean, the Aru Shah quote, I thought, because the way that I put it, I think it's still up in the air whether they actually, if Arusha exists in their universe or if they've read Arusha. Like it's sort of like I think if I remember like what the final version, because I kept going back and forth on it, I think I left it ambiguous enough so that you're never quite sure. It's like, wait, did they read the books, the Arusha books, or did
Or
they
yeah,
like
did they
meet
talk to her?
Arusha?
I hadn't noticed that, but that is now that I actually remember the line. You did very much write it ambiguous.
Right. So anyway, yeah, like basically, like those kinds of Easter eggs, are there just to provide just a little extra joy, to readers, because they did for me. It's like my first litmus test is, does it make me feel something? Does it make me laugh? Does it make me sort of like choke up? A couple times I walked away from the computer and just needed to take a breath because, well, like you said, Samuel, some of the stuff is emotional and pretty intense, and so the goal there is to definitely feel something as a writer, because then as the writer you're less likely to like laugh at your own jokes and stuff. It's like people don't laugh at their own jokes as much as other people might laugh at them because they're the ones who are being surprised by the newness of it. So if I can feel something like that, hopefully readers will feel those things even more intensely.
I never thought about that. But like, yeah, if you can laugh at it and you're the one like writing it down, it must be pretty funny.
Yeah, at least to my sense of humor. Not everybody has the same sense of humor and stuff, but yeah, like I feel like the only thing you can do as a writer is write something that will please you. Like, and you can spend a lot of times writing something that doesn't please you also, but like at some point you release it into the world and it's for some people and not for some people, but the achievement that you're trying to go for is the thing that if you were reading it fresh, you would love this book. Like if I had never heard of Carlos Hernandez and I read a Carlos Hernandez book, I would be like, I love this book. Like that's I think the kind of like most realistic goal a writer can have.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I do want to say the Easter eggs were very well placed, especially with, Gabi, attacking Sal about his pajamas. And we know the Gabbies wear great T-shirts. So, quoting yourself, it was well placed, I would say.
Yeah. This is just me being curious. Are there any more Easter eggs that we missed?
Well, I mean, I guess it's sort of like, I don't know what you fully read, and if I said something, you would remember it. But like, I put a lot of video game references in Sal and Gabi, and not just the ones that I make up, but other ones as well. And Sal is a big fan of fighting games, as you know, and so there are a lot of fighting game references in there, and there's some Twitch speak and stuff like that. So I guess like if you're a video game player, you probably would catch a couple of things that are meant especially for you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I did sort of notice those the made up games along with the not so made up.
Yeah,
but sometimes I feel like the made up games should just exist.
Yeah, they
Rick
should
said.
be real games.
Oh my gosh, yeah. Call me Disney.
You heard that, people. We're gonna get Carlos Hernandez make video games from the Sal and Gabi books trending on Twitter today.
Yeah, man.
Well, what I'm saying is, you make a video game about Sal and Gabi, and in the Sal and Gabi video game, you can play their video games.
Oh my god.
Oh my god. Samuel,
Okay.
that's like some inter-universal mesh things going on right there. Wait.
I mean, I think it's fitting for Sal and Gabi.
Yeah.
Wait. What about if Sal and Gabi can play the Sal and Gabi video game in their Sal and Gabi video game? So you're playing the Sal and Gabi video game of Sal and Gabi playing the Sal and Gabi video game of Sal and Gabi playing the Sal and Gabi video game.
We might fall into an infinite regress of like, but what if they start playing this Gabi video game,
We need to stop Jacob.
Stop the madness.
But talking about technology and the crazy things it can do, this book picks up a lot more on artificial intelligence than the last one definitely had inklings and that character of this, but when you're bringing in artificial intelligence realizing they're alive and weddings and whatnot, why do you think artificial intelligence became such a bigger role in this book?
I think it's one of the primary questions of like the 21st century, and it's going to only increase in importance as the 21st century progresses. We are going to start seeing artificial intelligences that will seem simultaneously more human and way smarter than humans at the same time. And so the navigation of what it means to be alive is going to be extremely interesting. And the way that I present it here in Sal and Gabi is counter to, I don't know, 90 some percent of how I see AIs portrayed in virtually every other like story that I've seen. Mostly what we see, I think, is sort of like bad robots, basically robots that go amok or, they lose control or want to destroy humanity. That's the cliche. And it's an old one at this point in science fiction. It's one that harkens back to, even the early days of science fiction. I guess what I would say is like, it doesn't have to be that way. I don't want at all to be sort of like a pie in the sky sort of person who innocently believes that technology is going to fix everything. I don't think technology is going to fix everything. I think only people fix things, and we need to do a better job of fixing things. That said, we can make tools that make life better, or we can make tools of oppression, or we can make tools that only benefit a few. There are lots of ways that we can implement tools. And one of the things I wanted to show was that if we implemented AIs well, we could have a different world, one very different than the one we have today. So I wanted to give AIs a positive portrayal simply because just like it's naive to expect technology to fix everything, it's also naive to expect that technology can only destroy everything. Really, what we need to do is think critically about technology and make laws that will make technology wonderful for all human beings and all sentient things, and let our scientists and educators and philosophers guide us when it comes to what are the deep ways that we can think about using these technologies for the betterment of all things in existence.
That was really cool. I guess I'd never thought about things that way. Like, I listened to a couple of AI talks, but like halfway through, they all become like so like philosophical that like I have to stop listening. But that's a very simple way of explaining things.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like every other tool that's ever been invented, people use them in myriad ways, sometimes for the good of humanity, sometimes for selfish reasons, and sometimes in utterly destructive ways. A technology like AI is just like that as well. The 21st century may see the advent of a sci-fi concept called the singularity. And what happens in the singularity is we reach a moment in our history where we cannot tell the difference between somebody who was born organically and somebody who was created artificially. And to me, that's, again, like one of the things that's exciting to think about. And so in Sal and Gabi Fix the Universe, the singularity has already been achieved. So like a class 9 AI is definitely like indistinguishable except in like body features and stuff. But so like there's an old test called the Turing Test, where if you had a conversation, a 3-way phone conversation, and an AI was one of the speakers and a human was the others, and you asked each of them questions, you wouldn't be able to tell which one was the AI and which one was the human. Like just because their answers would be so both like just the AI would be as deep and as complicated as the human being would be. That has already been well achieved in Sal and Gabi Fix the Universe. And that's what then lets us think about the conversations that happen in Sal and Gabi in terms of like this idea of sort of like, an AI can think about its evolution a little bit differently than a human. We talk about humans like when they're growing up having stages of development, but an AI would have those extremely codified because it can make very clear kinds of rules. Like, for instance, can you understand the multiverse? If you can do that, you've achieved a certain level of AI understanding. So yeah, that's basically it. It's just sort of like a very easy, gentle, I hope funny way to introduce the idea of sort of like AIs that have basically become indistinguishable in terms of intellect from human beings.
Well, I just want to quote Principal Torres after American Stepmom decides to give two artificial intelligences the sex talk. And Principal Torres says, I have so many questions. You made me cry in this book and you made me laugh, but that was just my like, yes, exactly moment.
Oh, I really do just try to make myself laugh. Like 80% of my goal in writing is just that. And, like American Stepmom stepping in to give those two the sex talk made me happy.
Well, it certainly made us laugh.
Yeah.
I was like, you caught the villain and this is more important. Okay. Understood.
Oh, that's awesome.
This book ended in a really awesome way 3 times. So what was your sort of thought process on the need for 3 epilogues?
I mean, a lot of times, like, I'm just like, you know what I've never seen before? Epilogue, epilogier, and epilogiist. Like, and I'm just like, all right, let's go. Let's have some fun. Let's do it. And so, like, I think if people like Sal and Gabi, one of the things they'll like is the verve, the energy, the brio that I try to bring to the writing. And so that was one thing. Like, I've never seen it before, trying to push myself as a writer, try to do something like that. The other thing is, this is basically it. Like, I wrote a 2-book contract. That's what Disney and I negotiated for. And I had some loose ends to wrap up. So, I was trying to make sure that I covered things. And so in Epilogier, for instance, I felt like I had made a promise when I had introduced Stupid Sal that I hadn't yet fulfilled. And I also... So like we were just talking about sort of like Inception video games of sort of like Sal and Gabi playing the Sat and Gal video game and playing Pucha Lucha Libre, while, like all of that. I mean, I feel a little bit like I was doing the same sort of thing in that second epilogue, where I sort of like summon up the fact that Sal is a very aware narrator. He's somebody who like challenges the reader, and he'll be like, hey, see if you can figure this out. And the next chapter, I'll tell you if you're right, like that sort of thing.
And he doesn't tell us what we need to know to figure it out.
Yeah, well, Sal, he's a stinker. But this sort of gives you a sense of where that writing came from, and I hope it sort of like tied a loop off and be like, oh, that's why the book feels so meta-narrative. It's kind of like he was actually kind of telling the story to someone, So it was me sort of like trying to think back, and you can't do everything. You can't tie every loop, and also I wouldn't want to tie off everything because maybe there will be something else to write in the Sal and Gabi universe someday. But
is that sequel I hear?
I will say that the last line definitely left me, looking for answers.
Well, that is good. I keep him wanting more, is an old stage adage. And so, I mean, the third line, or I'm sorry, the last line of the third epilogue, I think leaves things open, but also I feel like there's always more story to tell. There's always more to say, and wherever we end the story is always a little bit artificial, even like if it's a happy ending or whatever, or maybe especially when it's a happy ending, because then Snow White actually has to go
ever after. What's ever
right.
after?
Exactly. So I feel like the way to end a story is a feeling of satisfaction, not a feeling of completion, because completion, first of all, doesn't have to be satisfying. Completion can be very unsatisfying, but instead go for something that will leave people feeling like they still want to be in this universe, even though the story's over.
And next up on Volcanic Writing, next week we'll discuss.
Yeah. Unfortunately, here in sheltering in place, we have like one camera and there are lots of different missions that people have like in this big household and stuff. And so I do need to get back on the volcanic writing wagon and do another episode. Hey, let me ask you a question. Would you rather have an episode that was devoted to how to write a short little mystery, or would you rather have an episode that was talking about some other element of writing, like, for instance, how to write science fiction?
I would say mystery.
The mystery sounds pretty mysterious.
Well, as long as we got Paper Bag Monster, it's
yes.
okay
Yes.
with me.
Yes, Paper Bag Monster, and you got to talk to Kwame and see if you can make the Gum Baby Paper Bag Monster dialogue happen, because we need it. We need it.
I'll have to get him as a special guest star and see if he can do the Gum Baby voice, because, man, every time he does that Gum Baby voice,
It's great. I love it.
It's so dang funny.
So, volcanic writing. Before we started recording, we were talking about your new game you're playtesting, Negocios Infernales. What's up next? After Sal and Gabby's done?
Yeah, like I had told you, so like I'm a game designer too, and I'm designing a game with my wife that I'll be playtesting tonight that Diego has already playtested once, and we're going to get you both on to playtest again. It's a tabletop role-playing game, but here in the Shelter Playtime, we're using a system called Roll20. You can go to roll20.net and see it, and it's a way to role-play virtually, but at the same time with people. It's a great little system. And that's part of my sabbatical project. Like, one of the things I did was I designed a game, and this was what I had planned, is that I designed a game to help me write different stories.
Mm-hmm.
That is, I don't want to keep writing the same story over and over and again. I wanted to stretch my imagination. And games are a terrific way to branch out in directions you never expected. So that's one of the reasons we created this game. So definitely, I'm going to be finishing that up for my sabbatical. And then hopefully sometime in like 2021 or 22, we'll start seeing Negocios Infernales sort of like available in the world. The other thing, though, is I started in a new novel. And it's not Sal and Gabby. And so I'll tell
I
you
heard about this on your live stream.
Oh, yes, on my live stream. Yeah, but so the basic premise is this. The rats of New York City hire the son of an exterminator family to remove the biggest pest that has ever entered into the New York City sewer and subway system, a dragon.
Da, da, da.
When I heard you say that on the Books of Wonder, I was like, "Oh my gosh!" And they only speak one word. That's crazy.
Yeah,
and the exterminator and the rats have to get along.
Exactly. Yeah. So like, it's that unlikely buddy kind of structure, with all the rats of New York, and then this kid, Incendio is his name, and so and just to make clear to the reader, so like, one of the ideas is that every rat in New York City knows exactly one word in English or Spanish or a different language, but the book is going to be in English. But so like, if you wanted to send a message, if you're like a group of rats and you want to send a message to, say, like a kid who's an exterminator, and the message has 13 words in it, you send the 13 rats, each who knows one word of that message, together up to the human world to deliver the message. So it would be sort of like, it'd be like, please come eliminate the dragon that has occupied the sewers. Like, each of them would take turns saying the word that they know.
That's great. Like, I can imagine what's the game called? It's a game, and then like there's like these little balls, and you catch things inside the balls.
Pokemon?
Oh yes, that's what it's called. Yeah, Pokemon.
There you go.
Guys. It's
Oh my god!
it's not funny.
It's
I
Pokemon.
honestly just blanked. Okay, but like that, where the characters can only say like the name.
Yeah, exactly. Like Pika, Pika.
Yeah, stuff like that, and then they can only say like occupied.
Right, exactly.
I feel bad for the rat named Devuff because he probably gets sent on all the assignments. Him and
Oh
Anne.
yeah, like that's a very important rat, but that means that person would be a leader, so that rat would be like one of the head honchos because they got one of the toughest words.
The rat.
Right, the rat named you're right.
That could be like a whole book. That's an incredible title. The rat named the.
Yeah, that is good. I like that. Maybe that'll be a chapter title.
Yeah.
Don't sue me. I'm going to steal that from you.
Yeah, Diego's giving me some great ideas here. Like, you got to cash in.
Yeah.
I do want to say, thank you so much for coming on the show. I would love to talk to you for hours on end, but I also think that you have a family.
Yeah, I've got to prepare for my playtest tonight, though. That's basically what I'll be doing.
Yeah.
Play tonight. So yeah.
I did want to shout out that you are trying to sell signed copies of Silent Gabi Fix the Universe in a partnership with Books of Wonder, which you also did a live stream with. So I'm not sure if that is still available. So, any interesting videos that you've done, those books, what should people be looking out for on the internet?
Oh yeah, so probably the best way to keep up with me is to go on Twitter. I have been doing a little bit more Instagram these days, but I don't take good pictures, so it's not really the social media platform for me. I'm much more of a Twitter guy, just sort of like short and sweet messages and things like that. So if you just follow me at Write Teach Play, so it's WRITE Write Teach Play. That's a good way to sort of like keep up with me and see what's going on next. I've been doing a lot of panels and doing a lot of school visits, and so I imagine that's where I'm going to be for the foreseeable future until we can get some more stuff figured out about COVID.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, thanks again. As always, a pleasure having you on the show.
Yeah.
Wait, so Samuel, what am I going to say right now? Just don't say it out loud. Just think about it.
Okay, think it.
See if
think
you get it right
Samuel.
now.
Say it. Come on,
I'll
Samuel.
actually write it down for Diego to see.
Yeah, write it down.
Wait, give me like 30 seconds.
Yeah, okay. So I'll do I'll rap while you're thinking.
Yeah. So this is the story of Silent Gabi.
All right. Do you got it there, Samuel? You've written it down?
Yep, I actually got two options, which I feel is fair because you gave us three epilogues. Okay. So.
Oh, right. That's true.
Ready, Carlos? This is the moment
ready.
We've all been waiting for.
All right. Well, Samuel and Diego, I remain your most obedient servant, and it will be my pleasure to serve once again in the capacity as guest upon this show. Thank you so much.
Clap! He's good. He's really good.
Goodbye. It was great to have you.
Yeah. All right. Bye, guys.
And that's it for this episode of the Half-Blood Report. Diego, how can I contact this podcast?
You can follow the show on Twitter at Half Report. You can also find us on Instagram at The Half-Blood Report or email the show at thehalfbloodreport@gmail.com. We also have a website, thehalfbloodreport.com. And you can follow my personal Twitter at DiegoDGGT. That's Diego DGGT. But be advised, I don't tweet much, so you're better off just following the show.
And this episode, I also wanted to give a shout out to all the other Percy Jackson podcasts out there. A lot of the podcasts on their most recent episodes have been giving all the podcast shout outs, and I was like, darn, we should do that. I don't want to seem like the odd one out who's not shouting other people out. So,
wait, but the odd ones out is so good.
We're not talking about the popular YouTube channel, Diego. We're talking about the other Percy. Okay, speaking of the other Percy Jackson podcasts, there are so many great out there, so I'm just going to list them each. Radio Camp Half-Blood is a Percy Jackson read-along where Zach and B read a chapter each episode. Zach has read the books and B has not, so they have some fun discussion. They just finished Percy Jackson and Olympians and are now starting Heroes of Olympus. So next one up, Floor 600 actually came on our podcast 2 weeks ago. Quinn and Natalie on Floor 600 each couple of weeks read a couple of chapters of Percy Jackson and then discuss the myths behind the chapters. Soon they are going to be moving on to the Kane Chronicles. The Best Damn Camp podcast is also a read-along podcast, and the host, Fran, is trying to read all the Riordanverse books in chronological order. Consult the Oracle, hosted by Robert, is doing a Percy Jackson-themed advice podcast. People email him either a question about Percy Jackson characters or just ask for advice regarding day-to-day life. Robert does his best to answer, as he is the mighty Oracle. And Lord Apollo comes on his podcast, and I won't go into further detail on that. Finally, I want to shout out the Demipod. They might be doing something different on their podcast in the future. Who knows? It might involve yours truly. But as for now, they have already published 13 episodes where Braden and Hannah discuss Percy Jackson and also read through their Instagram DMs. Trust me, it's more interesting than it sounds.
Yeah, so there are a lot of cool Percy Jackson podcasts out there, and if any of the ones Samuel just mentioned sound interesting to you, check them out. And if you haven't already, listen to our collab with Floor 600 on episode 31, because I can promise you that that will just be the first of many Percy Jackson podcast collabs. Also, I wanted to say that apparently we haven't gotten enough data for our survey. Shame.
Yep, we need 20 responses at least, man.
And we still haven't gotten that many. So, if you don't know what we're talking about, we're referring to the survey where we asked people to fill out last episode. The data we get from that survey will help us have a discussion about the question Samuel has. A question that Samuel hasn't even asked me yet. Like, please fill out the survey. The link's in the description, because Samuel still hasn't told me what this interesting reorder-related question is. But if we get 20 responses, Samuel will tell me. And all you listeners out there, come on, guys, come on.
You really want to know what it is, Diego, right?
Yes, I do. Please, Samuel. No.
Well, you shouldn't be asking me. You should be asking people to fill out the survey. Link in the description.
All right. The link's in the description. Please fill it out, guys.
And gals, okay.
Yeah, gals. My bad. I'm sorry. And other.
To all our listeners, however you may identify, fill out the survey, because Diego is bugging me about it.
Yeah. That said, it's time for credits. Our theme music is actually by me, and Samuel does most of our editing.
My co-host here is Diego, and I'm Samuel.
This is the Half-Blood Report podcast, the only HBR that matters.
We'll see you next week.